Hello and welcome to our YouTube live stream. Wrexham AFC against Boreham Wood in the Vanarama National League, and the team news is in. I think James will jump straight into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris Dunn starts in goal for Wrexham. James Jennings, Manny Smith, Sean Pearson the skipper, Sam Wedgbury, Scott Quigley, Chris Holroyd, Jonathan Franks, Marcus Kelly, Kevin Roberts and Scott Bowden in a much changed Wrexham starting 11. Dave Raven, Jack McCrath, Paul Rutherford, Akil Wright and Simon Ainge all on the bench. Run you through Boreham Wood as well quickly. Grant Smith, Kane Smith, Danny Woodards, Mark Ricketts the captain, Dave Stevens, Ricky Shakes, Tom Champion, Kieran Murtagh, Bruno Andrade, Jamie Turley and Morgan Ferrier. Ollie Harfield, ex-Wrexham man Joe Quigley, Michael Falevi, Scott Doe and Alex Davey on the bench. James, a few changes to the Wrexham side then. Jonathan Franks is in the starting 11, as is Scott Bowden. Nicky Deverdix falls out of the squad completely. Jack McCrath comes to the bench.
Yeah, I suppose it's really what you ask your managers to do is, you know, when it's getting perhaps a bit stale, a couple of draws, is change it round. That's what a squad's for. Nicky Deverdix hasn't really performed to perhaps the expected level since coming in. It's a big step coming in sort of in January and trying to adapt into a squad. We know he's got talent. I think we'll see the best of him, but sometimes you just need to, you know, reshuffle the pack if you like. I think Paul Rutherford would be unlucky. He's been Mr. Consistent throughout the season, but I think Franks has been asking questions with his performance off the bench. He's looked better, and again, he's one that's come in January and bided his time a little bit, so it'd be interesting to see him. Chris Holroyd hasn't been in the goals lately and seemed to do better when it was the three of Bowden, Quigley and Holroyd when we saw our most prolific sort of scoring thing. So I can see the switch why. Yes, it's unlucky, but it's a squad game and it's all about getting 3 points. Yeah,
I completely agree with you with Scott Bowden. He's well, in terms of Scott Bowden starting with Holroyd in a varied position where I think Bowden has been unlucky in recent weeks not to be making that first team, but a man who perhaps unlucky not to be playing today is Paul Rutherford.
Yeah, I think Paul goes about his job he's consistent, and you know you've got a lot of energy from him. He is our top assister, So it's interesting that we've taken our set piece players, really. I suppose Rutherford, and obviously Deverdick's was sort of brought in as one who's got a fairly famed delivery from set piece, even though he hasn't really done it for us because we've been using Rutherford. So I assume Marcus Kelly will set up and take that role predominantly, I guess. Perhaps James Jennings come up for taking corners, maybe. We've seen that in the past. But yeah, I think Rutherford can find himself unlucky, but he's again, it's a squad game. He'll accept that. I think you've got, with all the draws we've been having, these draws have cost us potentially being right up there and challenging. It's been great to be undefeated. It's a great position to be in terms of where we were last season compared to now. But we really do need these 3 points, especially in these last few games we've got, to really cement ourselves in that top three. Who knows whatever Macclesfield do? Until it's mathematically over, you don't know.
You're absolutely right. We've had a couple of comments from you guys already. Keep them coming in the chat just below. Ben Edwards says, come on you Reds, come on for 3 points. Josh Williams says, come on you Reds. And Danny Duckett says, say hello to Danny and Peter down in Plymouth. Wrexham fans, Wrexham born, come on you Reds. So hello to Danny and Peter all the way down there. Fair dues to you. Keeping up with how Wrexham are getting on this afternoon. And let's look at Boreham Wood, James, and there's a few players in that team that certainly pop straight out at you. The first one for me is, as they call him, the Portugueser down at Meadow Park, is Bruno Andrade.
Yeah, very dangerous player. We've seen him, light up the pitch against us a few times.
Yeah.
There's a few players in that Boreham Wood side that can turn a game, put a performance in. They like to play football. They're a good little football side. There's a couple of names, as you said. Morgan Ferry is another one that impresses me every time I see him play. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up, particularly on what's going to be a heavy pitch today. Wrexham are very workmanlike in their approach. We've got the ability to play football, but we've got the ability that there's a lot of players in there as well. So it'll be interesting how Boreham would adapt to that as well.
I look at that and I think maybe Wrexham might have an advantage in terms of the pitch there, because I don't know if you know this, but Boreham Wood play on a surface that is part grass, part 4G.
Yeah.
So it's provided for them by Arsenal. They've got a big partnership with obviously the Premier League giants that are Arsenal, and so they're used to playing on an carpet because there's an Arsenal groundsman who does it all for them. They don't have to worry about that. You can see them perhaps struggling on a pitch like today when they're used to playing on such a surface, because the way they play, especially early when we played them early this season, they like to knock the ball around and play football. And I've seen Wrexham dig in and grind results on poor pitches, a la Guiseley away, for example. Yeah. So could that play into our hands, do you think?
Potentially, but I mean, all of these players that have played sort of National League level, which majority of them on that team sheet have. They're used to playing on subpar pitches, so it'd be interesting if you're playing your home games on a great pitch. Although Wrexham's pitch has been of great standard in the last few seasons, particularly since the drainage has been sorted. But it is an added test, and our team is more of a workman-like side. It's fused together on patterns of play. Yes, there's ability within the team, but it's very structured, and I think that structure should benefit us today.
Yep, hopefully so. Ex-Wrexham man, as I did mention as well, Joe Quigley. I think he played 4 games for Wrexham in the 15-16 season under Gary Mills' first year on loan from Bournemouth. Scored against Tranmere. He's not the first Quigley to score a 2-2 draw against Tranmere.
No, he's not.
Scott, but Joe certainly is. So he's on the bench. They've also got Scott Doe, who they've recently acquired from Dagenham and Redbridge, as well as another Morgan Ferrier, as we were talking about. It's an interesting one for me. Boreham Wood made a big fanfare of signing him for a club record fee about 2 months ago when they let him go to Dagenham on a free the summer before. So a non-league Paul Pogba there.
Yeah, perhaps not as much money at exchange hands, but definitely a good example of.
Absolutely. So right, Wrexham versus Boreham Wood. James, if I can't make it to the racecourse this afternoon, how do I keep up?
Well, keep up. You can follow us on text updates via social media for Twitter and Facebook, or follow us on Calon FM or the Mixlr will be live on radio for the whole match. And if you can't make any of them, you'll be able to see the YouTube highlights, obviously, of the full match later on once they're released tomorrow night. Yeah,
very much so. I know that Andy, James and Mark will all be on commentary on Calon FM. You can also catch the highlights and interviews from post-match this afternoon. Win, lose or draw, we'll bring you those. Hopefully Wrexham can get 3 points in what is going to be an absolutely massive afternoon.
And of course, join us later for the post-match reaction. We'll be live here on YouTube.
come back.